Hi students, regarding the question that was asked yesterday about how should we tackle the questions on time shift with time reverse and time scale together. So I've made these small presentations to show you a few more examples on how you can handle them easily. Alright, for these questions, this is actually the same questions as your lecture slide in slide 50. And previously, in the lecture slide, it is shown that you are able to do it with the time scale first, followed by time shift, then followed by time reverse. But later on, I found out that you can also do it the other way, which is time shifting first, then followed by time scaling, and then time reversal. So no matter which way it is, your time reversal must be the final one. Alright, so personally, I would prefer to use the second way. So I will now show you how do we solve these questions by doing shifting first, then scaling, and then reverse. So now the first step is to shift. So from xt, we are going to shift to xt plus 1. Alright, so to shift to xt plus 1 is very straightforward. So this is a time axis, and everything will just shift to the left side for one time instant. So this will be -1, this is 1, and this -2. So the signals will become this. Alright, so just everything shift to the left by one time instant. The second one, we need to do the time scaling. So for the time scaling, you only scale the time. You does not scale the shifting. Alright, so only the t will change to 0.5 t. So in this case, when t is scaled by 0.5, you are actually expanding it. So instead of 1, it becomes 2. Instead of -1, become -2. Then -2 become -4. So this is the same graph after you do the time scaling. And the final step is to do the time reversal. So for time reversal, again, you only reverse the t. Alright, so you reverse the t, it becomes -0.5 t plus 1. Alright, which is same as the questions already. So for the time reversals, is again quite straightforward. You just reflect everything from positive to negative. So everything will just be reflected to the other side. Alright, so that is the final answers that you can get if you do the shift, scale, then reverse. It will be the same answers if you do scale, shift, and reverse. But this method is a little bit more complicated because when you do the shifting, it will need to ensure that you are scaled up as well when you do shifting. So therefore, that is the reason that I prefer to use the second method. I'll show you another example in the next slide. Alright, in these questions, I will not go through the ABC. This is question 1.6. ABC is very straightforward. I'll go through question D, 1.6D, where you need to do, again, scaling, shifting, and reversing. So if you look at questions D, you are given a graph that looks like the one that on the right side, and you are going to find out what is x4 minus t over 2. Again, I would prefer shift first, then scale and reverse. So let us try it. Alright, so first, the first step is to shift. So we have x4 plus t first, or t plus 4 is the same. So everything will be shifted to the left side for 4 time instant. So when it's 2, it started with -2. When it's 1, it started at -1. And that is this is -3. Then this is -4. Then this is -5. And this is -6. So these two will be at -2 here. The 1 will be at -3 here. And then the 0 will be at -4 here. So this looks something like this. And then you just continue drawing it. You should get the answer for that shifting. And then now, second, you need to do scaling. So it's x4 plus t over 2, or 0.5 t. And as I mentioned earlier, scaling is the opposite way. So if it's divided by 2, means that it's expanded by 2 through this axis. So you just multiply everything by 2. Initially, it will start from -2, right? Now it starts from -4. Then let's say this is -5. Oh, this axis is not long enough. Alright, negative 4. Or actually, I don't need to even draw a new one. I draw back here. I just rescale everything. Instead of starting from negative 2, it now should start from negative 4, negative 6, negative 8. This one is negative 10, and this one is negative 12. So this one is the intermediate. And finally, the x of 4 minus t over 2. So this one is a reversal. So everything goes to the positive side now. So instead of negative 4, now it becomes 4. Then this one is a 6. Then this one is 8. This one is 10. And this one is 12. And it now reflected on the y-axis. So it will look like this. And therefore, this is the final answer. And I would also like to show the solution for E and F, because I think you might have problems over here. Because now it is no longer just time scaling, time reversals, or time shifting, but it also involves operations. For example, you need to add or multiply two signals together. So let us look at E. Okay, for question E, there's actually xt for the first one. It's not just t. Alright, please take note, this is xt plus x minus t, and then the whole thing bracket multiplied by ut. And I hope you still remember what is ut. Ut is actually a step signal. Alright, so now let us see what does it mean. So we are going to add xt and x minus t. So what we're going to do is that we will just draw out both xt and x minus t. So this is 0, this is 1, this is 2, this is negative 1, this is negative 2. So it looks like this. A bit sengit. So alright, so this is xt. And then we need to draw out x minus t, preferably at the same axis, so that you can see it easier later. So this is negative 1, this is negative 2, this is 2, this is 0, 1. Alright, so now everything comes from the other side because it's just a time reversal. Alright, now you see, we need to do the summation first. Xt will need to be added to x minus t. So if you add them up, what will it be? You look at this one. I shouldn't draw it that low because later we still need to multiply by the ut. So let me draw it here. Alright, to do the summations, you look at how you can do summations on each point. So let's say we have 5 points here. At this point, for 2, you need to sum at this point at 2. So this is 0, and this is negative 1. So you are going to start from negative 1 here. From 1, you need to sum with the point at 1 here. So you need to, basically you need to summations of all these points together. So you see that you are actually, you can see it like you are adding them up. Alright, you are adding them up together. So let's say at this point is 1, and you add up with 0, so it becomes 1. So this one actually is a straight line after you add up. Alright, this straight line and added up with this straight line will give you this straight line. And then now, if you have a point here, and the point here is 1 plus 2, so it will go up to 3. So let's say this is 1, this is 2, this is 3. So it will go up to 3. So it will go constant. This one will go constant also. So you just go constant. And then at this point, you have 2. And then this point, you drop back to 1. So 2 plus is still 3. So actually it's still the same. It's constant maintained over here. Later on, you'll notice that you don't even need to do anything below 0. But I'll just show you if you want to do below 0 as well. So at this point, it drops down to 0. And this point drops down to 1. So it will drop to 1. Alright, this is 1. And then at this point, it will drop to negative 1. This point drops to 0. So it will drop to negative 1. So you will draw a straight line. Alright, so this is the graph of xt plus x minus t. And with this, we need to multiply it with ut. Alright, so we draw out what is ut first. Ut is just simply like this. This is 0. Alright, so this is 1, this is 2, this is -1, this is -2. And you're now going to multiply them together. If you multiply them together, you see it's very simple. Everything before zeros, these are all zeros. They got no value. Everything after time 0, this is the time axis, it will be 1. So everything before 0 will be multiplied by 0. So anything before 0 will be 0. Anything multiplied by 0 is also 0, no matter how much this one change. Alright. And then everything after 0 will be multiplied by 1. So we just redraw exactly the same graph again, because it's just multiplied by 1. So this is 1, this is 3. Alright, and then this one is a timestamp of 1, and this timestamp of 2. So this will be the final answer. Alright, for the question F, you will have the notations of impulse signal. Alright, I hope you still remember what is impulse signal. So now we need to do the impulse signal first, because we do whatever in the bracket first. So what is this impulse t plus 3 over 2? Let's say this is 0. Impulse 3 plus 3 over 2 is just, this is 1, this is 2. It's just in between here and an impulse going up. That's all. So this is delta t plus 3 over 2. And then delta 3 t minus 3 over 2. So it's just delta, again it's the same thing. If it's minus, it's on the right side. So it's here. Now you need to use this. This is delta t minus 3 over 2, minus of them. So the result will be 0, 1, 2, -1, -2. The spike minus of the second spike. So the second spike will be negative. That's all. Alright, the first spike minus of the second spike. So everything else will be 0. Only these two spikes. And now these two spikes will multiply by our xt. So let me draw the spike over here. So this is the first spike is here. Second spike is here. Alright, now how do we multiply it by xt? Alright, remember this spike has area of 1. This spike also has area of 1. So at this point, -3 over 2 point, this is -0.5, correct? So what we get after we multiply it is that everything else is 0, because everything else is 0 except at this point. This point is -0.5 multiplied by 1 is -0.5. So this point will be -0.5. And then everything else are 0 because it's multiplied by the zeros over here. Alright, everything else is 0 until this point. This point is positive 0.5, correct? This point here. And it need to multiply by 1. -1. This is -1 because it's negative value. So it also become -0.5. So that is the final answer. So this is the axis. Alright, the answer is just 2 arrow. Alright, please don't be confused by the new arrow that I draw. This is the answer. It's just the 2 arrow that pointing down for -0.5 area. Or sometimes you just label it here, -0.5, so that I know that the area of it is -0.5.